Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition and we turn out to poem 617, Don't Put Up My Thread and Needle. Now, in many ways, we're back to poem 261. Put up my lute, what of my music, since the sole ear I care to charm, passive as granite laps my music, sobbing will suit as well as psalm. Would but the Minman of the desert teach me the strain that vanquished him when he surrendered to the sunrise, maybe that would awaken them. Now, this is an interesting poem for its background information, probably dated around 1862. In many ways, this poem is what Priest calls prophetic of eye trouble, which afflicted Emily for a long period in 1863 to 64. She says in letter 290 to Thomas Higginson of June 1864, quote, I was ill in September and since April in Boston for a physician's care, and in fact, she stayed with her cousins in Boston until November of 1864. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 616 poems. We just finished with 616, I Rose Because He Sang. Now, many have commented on the fact that this poem has got to be read as metaphoric. The scholar Wolf has pointed out, Emily was not a great enjoyer of sewing. And so we've got really a metaphor here, possibly, for writing. And in some ways, we're back to our study of the Odyssey and to the whole motif of weaving. This is how she says it. Don't put up my thread and needle. I'll begin to sew when the birds begin to whistle better stitches. So, these were bent. My sight got crooked when my mind is plain. I'll do seams a queen's endeavor would not blush to own. Hymns too fine for ladies tracing to the sightless knot, tucks of dainty interspersion like a dotted dot. Leave my needle in the furrow where I put it down. I can make the zigzag stitches straight when I am strong. Till then, dreaming I am sewing, fetch the seam I missed. Closer, so I at my sleeping still surmise a stitch. Now, the question obviously is, who is she speaking to? Some have said she's speaking to her sister Vinnie, for example. When she says, don't put up my thread and needle. By the way, we'll get to the placing of pins in the next poem, 618. And then she says, I'll begin to sew when birds begin to whistle. Notice the repetition of begin. By the way, in the original version, Emily actually spelled the word S-E-W-S-O-W, which is fascinating because when she uses later this idea of the furrow, the idea that her writing is somehow like sewing, S-O-W, is a fascinating idea. By the way, S-E-W, when we get to 1138, we'll play the game this way. A spider sewed at night without a light upon an arc of white, if rough was of dame or shroud of gnome, himself in form. Of immortality, his strategy was physiognomy. So notice she'll begin by saying, don't put away my thread and my needle. I'll begin to sew in the spring when the birds begin to whistle better stitches. So notice we're playing with the game of sewing and stitches. These were bent. Now, the antecedent of the pronoun these has given scholars all kinds of questions. Are we talking about our previous sewing and stitching? Are we talking about our poems? My sight got crooked. In other words, her poor eyesight maybe. When my mind is plain, I'll do seams a queen's endeavor would not blush to own. By the way, this idea of doing seams, Helen McNeil has commented that this is maybe Emily referencing these miniature poems, so many of which she has written. I'll do seems a queen's endeavor would not blush to own. Queen, we have said in 19 poems. Go back to our study of 508 in regards to queen. Hymns, she says, too fine. Now, I find it interesting she uses the word hymns, and when you read this poem out loud, there's two understandings of the word hymns, H-E-M's, obviously over-related to sewing, but there's also the chorus, the religious hymns, H-Y-M-N-S, right? Too fine for ladies tracing to the sightless knot, you'll remember knot from 423, tucks of dainty interspersion like a dotted dot. And you'll remember dainty from 345. In other words, she makes the argument that if you'll just give me a little bit more time, I'll be able to put together some useful weaving, stitching, and the like. Then she'll come back to leave. My needle in the furrow. Now, again, this idea will take us to Emily's possible reading of Emerson's The Poet, and knowing the idea that she started with the word S-O-W as opposed to S-E-W. It's possible here that she's really playing some word games with us. Before I put it down, and then she says that I can make the zigzag stitches straight when I am strong. Her use of this word zigzag is fascinating, right? When I am strong, back to when I'm ready to be healthy again, when my sight isn't so crooked and the like. Till then she uses the word dreaming. I am sewing. Fetch the seam I missed. Closer sew I at my sleeping. Are we speaking here about death? Still surmise I stitch. And again, this word stitch, 858, when we get there, we'll play the game with the word stitch. Now, I think it's significant that she uses the word surmise. Here in a few poems, we're going to hit 712. And when we do, this is, of course, Emily's, some say maybe her most famous poem, Because I Could Not Stop for Death, He Kindly Stopped for Me, the carriage held but just ourselves, and immortality. The last line of that poem says, Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. This idea of surmising as it relates to dying is profound. Now, let's also remind ourselves that Emily, when she put together these poems for herself, she did it in notebooks that she sewed together, and I think that's significant as well. At 2a, the message here is I think that it's hard to not be able to do the thing that we love, whether it's sewing or it's writing. At 2b, well, obviously the metaphor of sewing and stitching for writing is a possible reading of this poem. At 3a, we mentioned Emerson's The Poet. I think Shelley's defense of poetry is as well standing behind some of this as well. What is it that Shelley says about poets, potable gold and the like? Finally, 3b, what was a time when you couldn't do the thing that you loved to do, and therefore you felt somehow like you were missing your sewing? Thank you.